Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
Brewers dropping the series against the Minnesota Twins over the weekend. Friday night getting blanked. Saturday night getting blanked by the Brewers. But the Brewers and their series prior against like Cleveland and Tampa Bay, avoiding the sweep by winning their final game of these series. And that was the case yesterday with Freddie Peralta on the mound. Brewers getting enough run support and a nice defensive play. Not just a nice, a fantastic, terrific defensive play by Jackson Chourio in center field in the eighth to rob a potential game-tying home run at that point. Again, kudos, tip of the cap to Jackson Chourio. I know we've talked about it, but I think it needs to be talked about more on a national sense, statewide sense. Just the leap of improvement that Jackson Chourio has had from a defensive standpoint. Now, is he Gold Glove worthy? No. You watch him, yeah, there's still, he doesn't have the smoothest of moves. He's not a Michael Jackson out there with smooth criminal type of moves out there in the outfield and when he's trying to, get underneath the ball and that. But, from last year to where he's at now, I think that kid has made gigantic strides in his defensive play out in the outfield. So that, I think, there's a lot to be disappointed about so far with maybe this Brewers team. But a tip of the cap to Jackson Chourio and the development and the continued improvement that he is having from the defensive side so far. With the injuries to the outfield now, and you're talking about him as being your center fielder out there, and the fact that you're comfortable putting him out there right now tells you the leaps and bounds he has made from his defensive play from last year. So kudos to him. And that was an absolute fantastic web gem of a catch yesterday against the Twins. So shout out to Jackson Chourio, and shout out to, I swear, I think he's my favorite player in Major League Baseball right now, Sal Frelick. I know that it wasn't a catch on Saturday night, but the dude is willing to sacrifice his body for some of those plays and just to get it out, and that was just a fantastic effort and a nearly incredible catch in the outfield on Saturday night. I don't know how he didn't break his wrist. Rolling over, that looked absolutely painful. It made me cringe just thinking about making a play like that. But then the next play, he guns the guy out at home. Dude's trying to test that Gold Glove right fielder's arm out there. So I love watching Sal Frelick play baseball. It's not the flashiest. It's not the powerful hitting that he has on the offensive side. But just from a clear effort standpoint, that dude plays baseball the right way. If he comes away with his jerseys clean, I'd be shocked. I got to imagine his mom probably growing up, if he had white baseball pants and a white baseball jersey and Little League and that, she was probably cussing up a storm trying to get the stains out of there, because that's all he does is just dive all over the place and make plays, for crying out loud. Absolutely love watching Sal Frelick play baseball. Is he the best player in Major League Baseball? No. But, man, you cannot discount or take away the heart that guy plays with. But looking at this team overall, and you look at this weekend series, it's another disappointing offensive weekend series. And you look at what Pat Murphy had to say Saturday night. We know Pat Murphy, he's pretty open, right? A lot of stuff that he says, he's pretty open and honest. He's not afraid to kind of speak his minds. He's pretty straightforward in a lot of his talking points in that, and some of the comments that he made Saturday night. He said, quote, "Now, did we go spend a lot of money in the offseason, guys? Let's call a spade a spade. No, we didn't. Are we real deep in the position player business? No, we're not." He also did go on to say, trying to still boost up some of the players that they have on their ball club, saying that we have good ones and we have ones that aren't getting the results right now and aren't in their best state of mind. But that's the beauty of this thing. Maybe it'll be a different journey around the track this year. Maybe we're slow out of the gate. Maybe it's a muddy track. Maybe other people slow down and we close. So I appreciate the optimism from Pat Murphy, and I think, that's part of his job, and that's what he's got to do. But he's exactly right. I mean, I don't think he's saying anything in that first part by saying, the comments about spending a lot in the offseason. Like you said, let's call a spade a spade. He's exactly right. I think again, it's just another example of Pat Murphy, kind of different mindset, a different approach than a lot of coaches and managers out there. They may not have the cojones or the personality or whatever you want to call it to, or the courage to kind of go out there and say some of the stuff that he does. They kind of keep it inside, behind closed doors and that. Not Pat Murphy at this point. But he's exactly right. Right? I mean, I don't have an issue with that. I don't think a lot of fans would have an issue with that. Dude's, I don't know if I would necessarily say he's calling out ownership or calling out the front office and that. I think he's just spitting out facts. And he's just stating facts right now. Hey, we didn't go out in the offseason and spend a lot of money, and we didn't, sign a bunch of position players. And then in the same breath, shows confidence in some of the guys that he already has. Now, I think that's just being a good manager and displaying and trying to show confidence, in some of these guys. And just right now, I think Pat Murphy is trying, and I think this Brewers team overall is just trying with all their might to find a spark to kind of get going. I thought Jeff Levering made a good point on Saturday's broadcast and talking about the identity and this team trying to find the identity. And he made a good point where last year, if you remember last year, their opening series against the Mets, remember what happened in that series? Twice, the bench is cleared for a little fisticuffs. Not really fisticuffs, but little, there was the Reese Hoskins one, chime in, back and forth, They were showing like, okay, this is going to be a team that's not going to back down from a fight. They're going to show a little aggression. They're going to show a little, and maybe that's what kind of sparked that team right away, and that was kind of their identity last year. And really this year, there hasn't been. Now, I'm not saying that this year they have to go and start a benches clearing brawl or anything like that, and I don't think that's the point in this whole thing. It's like, okay, obviously then, with Baltimore, let's throw in a guy and start a benches clearing brawl or have a hard slide, and that's what's going to get going. No, every team's going to be different. Every year's going to be different. But I think that kind of set the tone to last year and is like, okay, we're going to be this team that's going to be a gritty, hard-nosed, tough type of team. And the fact that we don't have that identity right now for this team, I think is definitely a little concerning heading into the second quarter of the season, already into the second quarter of this season. And I think it's having a trickle-down effect with a lot of things. It's you got the offensive issues right now. Who's your most consistent offensive players? You've been dealing with some injuries with the starting pitching staff, but for the most part, you've had guys really stepping up and doing a nice job. Tobias Myers has definitely been a disappointment this year. He is not the Tobias Myers from last year. Getting that start on Saturday, allowing a lot of hits, already getting sent down. It's been disappointing. And we could point at a lot of things so far this year and be like, dang. And then you look at the division. Cardinals are better this year. Reds, we expected to be a little bit better this year. And with the Brewers playing the way they are right now, that's why they're fourth. And that's why they're a couple games under 500 so far in this division. And you know what? I'm of the opinion, too, going back to the poll question we had about Mizorowski. Why not? I think at some point we are going to see him. But I think at some points, too, Is he a guy that can help provide a spark? I know our issues are on the offensive side of things right now, but is he a guy that he comes in? I mean, this is a guy a few days ago, multiple times, late in a game, touched 103 miles an hour, 102 miles an hour, 103 miles per hour. Not in the first inning. We're talking like a few innings into the game. I don't know if he's tall, lanky, 6'7", whatever he is. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Randy Johnson, but I mean, maybe he's a guy that could come in and provide a little bit of spark. I mean, who doesn't get excited when you see the radar gun hit triple digits, for crying out loud? I don't care if you're a relief pitcher or starter, especially. I mean, starter might be like, oh, yeah, that gets you going there a little bit more. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it would provide a little bit of a spark. It's just, can the Brewers turn a little bit of a spark wherever it comes from? Could they provide a little bit of a spark and turn it into a fire? You know, it's one thing to have that spark, but can you turn it into a full-out, blown-out fire that gets you flipping going and gets you going for the rest of the season? Because you cannot continue to dig yourselves into a deeper hole. I mean, we thought before the season started, the only way for the Brewers to win the postseason, or to go to the postseason, was probably to win the NL Central. When you look at the rest of the National League and you looked at the rest of the divisions, it was like, all right, probably only one team's coming from the Central, and it's going to be the division winner. And you look at it right now. I mean, you look at the West. Dodgers, Giants, Diamondbacks, Padres. You look at the East. Mets, Phillies, throw in the Braves a little bit. And then you even look at the Central now with how well the Cardinals are playing. Cubs, maybe the Reds too. It's not a playoff team. Brewers are not a playoff team right now. And they got to kick it into gear here instead of continuing to dig a little bit of a deeper hole where it's going to be harder for them to get out of. I don't see this team right now at this point making any moves to try to bolster their ball club on the offensive side. I at this point, I don't see it happening, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised and pleasantly wrong. Brewers, though, getting set for this series against Baltimore starting tonight. We're going to get Quinn Priester on the mound for the Brewers, and this is a Baltimore team that's really struggled too. You know, obviously no Corbin Burns this year has really taken a hit for Baltimore. Their manager let go. Baltimore's coming in at 15-30 on the season. So I want to see this Brewers team. I want to see a sweep. I want to set the standard high. I mean, yeah, you definitely want to get at least a series win against a team like Baltimore, but why can't we ask for a little bit of a 3-game sweep here? You know, you look at this week. All right, this week, you're home against a team that's got 15 wins coming into tonight. Baltimore. Take care of your business and win that series. And then Thursday, you're on the road, but you're going up against a team that also, coming into today on Monday, has 15 wins. Two teams that have already let go of their managers. Take advantage of the schedule right now and start to rack up some wins, for crying out loud. And get back to above 500. You have a chance. You're 3 games under 500. You have a chance to get over 500 with this week's worth of games. Because after that, things are going to get a little bit tougher. You got the Red Sox starting a week from today on Memorial Day. They're a couple games right now under 500. Red Sox, I think it's fair to say, probably not playing to that level that a lot of people, including myself, had when the season started. They were a popular pick to come out of the AL East. Playing a little bit under those expectations. But after Boston, you're on the road to Philly, you're on the road to Cincinnati, then you're home for a while, but that includes games against the Padres, the Braves, and the Cardinals, and then you hit the road to take on the Cubs and the Twins. That's what's starting. That stretch starting a week from today on Memorial Day. Boston, Philly, Cincy, San Diego, Atlanta, St. Louis, Chicago Cubs, and Minnesota. You're talking about a lot of playoff teams in that stretch. A lot of playoff teams. May 26th all the way through June 22nd is going to be a very tough portion of the schedule. And dare I say, is it too early? But dare I say a potential maybe kind of season-defining stretch of the schedule in terms of like, okay, depending on how the Brewers go through that portion of the schedule, could that determine what they're going to do for the rest of the season in terms of maybe trading some players, acquiring some players? I mean, if they win a bunch of those games and win a bunch of those series, and all of a sudden you're talking about, okay, here we are, maybe back in second in division, and you know, few games above 500, maybe it changes the perspective a little bit. But take advantage of what you got coming starting tonight and this week, and use that to maybe get that spark going and turn it into a blazing fire, because you're going to you're going to need to play like you're on fire starting next week for the next month with the portion of the schedule that's coming up. So use this series against Baltimore and then Pittsburgh afterwards to get that spark and turn it into a wildfire. Because you're going to need to play with your butts on fire to even have a chance to rack up some wins with the upcoming portion of your schedule.